Hello, friends. Jesus has just cast an unclean spirit out of a boy that his disciples were not able to do, showing that his disciples, as he starts to preach about the cross, his resurrection, what it takes to really be a leader in God's kingdom, he allowed his disciples to fail at something, to teach them the lesson that devotion, dedication is a necessity to be a leader in the kingdom of God. We need them. The people need them. So he taught them that. He let them fail. They tried to cast out an unclean spirit and they couldn't. And Jesus said this only comes by fasting and praying. Now Jesus is going to talk about his death again. Have you noticed? He's bringing it up more often. Mark chapter 9, it's also in Matthew 17 and Luke 9, but let's read Mark 9:30. It says, "And they departed hence and passed through Galilee, and he would not that any man should know it. For he taught his disciples and said unto them, The Son of Man is delivered unto the hands of men, and they shall kill him. And after that he is killed, he shall rise the third day. But they understood not that saying, and were afraid to ask him." All right. Remember, it started when Jesus says he openly taught them that he was going to be rejected and tortured and killed and raised. But not much was said about it. Later on, he mentioned it again, and they didn't understand what he was talking about. Well, here's the same thing. It says that Christ departed with them, and they're traveling. And evidently they're traveling alone. They're sort of just leaving. That Christ didn't want there to be a great multitude there. This was not the time for it. There's a time to be alone, as we know Jesus would go up into the mountains and pray. There was times that Jesus took his followers, his most devout men, and took them to the high mountains, Peter, James, and John, and let them see some great spiritual event, the Mount of Transfiguration. Now is the time that he's going to be with more of his disciples. And he's going to talk again about the cross, about him dying. He said, "The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They shall kill him, and after he's killed, he is raised on the third day." That's pretty obvious, isn't it? But it says, they understood not that saying, and were afraid to ask. Now it's interesting they're afraid to ask. Why couldn't they say, "Jesus, what do you mean you're going to die?" Were they afraid because they didn't want to hear what he was really saying? Because they had their own image, they had their own idea what was going to happen? That Christ was going to become king and take over the geographic area that they had at one time in the Old Testament and push Rome out? Was it afraid that they had in their own mind what God was supposed to do, and suddenly the one that they're following and devoted to and believe he is the Messiah is telling them that God has different plans? So they're afraid to ask. Were they afraid that Jesus would scold them? Were they embarrassed maybe to ask a dumb question? I think they're afraid to ask because what Jesus was saying did not correspond to what they thought the Messiah was going to do. It was totally different. Instead of being king, he was going to be killed. Instead of being the one on the throne, he was going to be nailed to the cross. And it says they didn't understand. As they balanced their reason and their theology together and the words of Christ, it did not balance out. So I want to share this with you. It is not that important that I understand everything. What's important is that I just follow God by faith. I don't know why bad things happen. I don't know why innocent people get hurt. I don't know all the hard questions in this world. And don't claim to. But I'll say this. I do know we're supposed to trust God through it all. Understand His will is most important. Today, if you're facing struggles in life, all I can say to you is trust God on the good days and trust Him on the bad days. God bless you.